Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the second installment of Wellness Wednesday, which is sponsored by Partners in Care Foundation. I am your host, Christy Lau, and I am a Senior Director here at Partners in Care. Wellness Wednesday is a series that's meant to bring you a short burst of education, of something fun, during this time when we all can't be face-to-face. This series is going to cover an array of topics, so please continue to join us. Today, during the month of September, we are going to continue, though, in our topic of fall prevention. After all, it is actually Fall Prevention Awareness Week. And the intention of recognizing Fall Prevention Awareness Week, which is done nationwide, is to shed light on the importance of fall prevention and the many steps that you can take to prevent falls. Our friends at the National Council on Aging have actually created a quick screener so that you can check your fall risk by answering 12 simple questions. And you can find that falls-free checkup by going to the National Council on Aging website here. And I'll leave this up as I walk us through just some quick housekeeping tips in case you'd like to write it down. Everyone has joined the webinar in listen-only mode, but that does not mean that you cannot ask questions of our speaker today. There are two methods that you can use for asking questions, and that's by either using the chat function, or you should be able to see a button that's called Q&A, where you can also type your question in there. Without further ado, I'd actually like to introduce our speaker today. She is Jennifer Nolte, who is the Emergency Medical Services Coordinator with the Torrance Fire Department. Before joining Torrance Fire in October 2018, she worked as an emergency nurse for an LA area hospital and as an EMS educator for another area fire department. Prior to becoming a nurse, she taught high school chemistry and math. She's proud to work collaboratively with Partners in Care on fall prevention. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Christy, and I'm honored to be here today with Partners in Care, presenting for your Wellness Wednesday. So, if we move to, I believe, the first slide, Christy, thank you. So I'm here to talk to you guys about falls and fall prevention, and something that I'm definitely passionate about in terms of prevention, both as a nurse and then also working for a fire department as well. So just a couple of important facts to bring up about falls. They're very common and oftentimes not talked about very frequently. So just a couple kind of facts to list for you. Each year, more than 1 out of 4 older adults end up falling. Less than half end up telling their doctors about it or their care providers. 20% of those end up causing serious injury. So serious injury would be traumatic brain injuries, head, broken bones, hip fractures, that sort of a thing. 3 million older adults go to the emergency department for fall-related injuries every single year. And over 800,000 of them end up requiring hospitalization. 300,000 are specifically for hip fractures. And why is this so important? Why is it important that we have an understanding of these numbers? Again, as I mentioned, less than half end up telling their doctors about it, whether that's because we want to minimize it or embarrassment associated with it. And it's super important to make sure that those conversations are happening, because once a single fall does occur, it does end up doubling your chance for following in the future. And falls are preventable, so it's something that we can do. There are things that we can do to decrease that risk. But if we're not having that conversation, the things that we can do to prevent falls end up not happening. So it is very important that, that you have that conversation. Next slide, please. All right. So obviously I work for a fire department. What does the fire department's role in fall prevention? And a fire department serves the needs of the community, right? So usually when we think about a fire department, we may think fire, we may think emergency medical services. 70 to 80% of the call volume associated with the fire department is related to emergency medical response. So it's a large portion of what we do. So the emergency response, I think people think about very frequently. But in addition to that, in serving the community's needs, we also find it very important to work towards risk reduction, because if we can get to a point where we're preventing even having to respond to something because nothing happened, we're doing a better job than even the amazing care that we might be able to provide in the field. But being able to prevent something from happening in the first place is fantastic. So the risk reduction is a key factor as well. And community engagement is important in that, helping to get information out and support different programs, like our partnership with Partners in Care. Those are all very important to help serve our community's needs. So with that, we have a huge opportunity of positively impacting quality of life, because we do know that falls, in addition to causing injury, they have a huge impact on quality of life. So this may mean that because of an injury, an individual is no longer able to be independent in the home. Maybe they need further care, or maybe are not able to live independently. So there are a lot of aspects that can affect that quality of life. And so again, that prevention is very key in helping to maintain those things and helping to maintain that quality of life. And then lastly, the minimizing healthcare costs. We do know that, anything related to health services, there's a cost that's incurred with that. And so if we can help by preventing these things from occurring, decrease those costs, it's very helpful not only to our individuals in our community, but for also the system as a whole. $31 billion annually is what the associated costs for falls are. So it's a huge cost. And if we can help prevent that, these are very important things. All right. Oh, and just something to, sorry, I'll go back real quick. Something to mention just in terms of our numbers. And again, I work for just one fire department, but 10% of our total call volume, that's all of the responses all of our emergency medical responses are associated with falls in older adults. And so that's certainly something that we within our own department looked at and said, hey, this is a large portion, and these are preventable things. And so what can we do to really engage with the community and work towards that risk reduction? So that's what initially started that partnership as well. Okay, sorry, continue, Christy. All right, so what happens when we do call 911? Because there is some uncertainty and sometimes fear associated with that whole aspect. Not just the injury and the potential pain that one might be feeling. There's a lot of anxiety associated with calling 911 or having paramedics and people you don't know entering your home. And so what is that like, and what happens? And so this is kind of the process. So when you do call 911, whether it's you making the phone call, whether it's a family member, friend, caregiver, the call goes to a dispatch center. So the dispatch center takes the call, gets the basic information, and is able to start the response. So they're able to notify whichever resource is closest to you. So whether that's a fire engine, ambulance, kind of depends on the department and what they staff. But they're going to start that response even while they're on the phone with the individual. So they don't have to get all the information first. So they're going to get the key factors like your address and why you're calling, and what essentially be able to determine what is needed to address your emergency. And then throughout that call, as they get more information, they're able to update the resources that are currently responding. So paramedics and EMTs, they're able to get the further information that the dispatcher is getting. So whether it's a fire engine, an emergency squad, an ambulance, whichever resource is responding. Once they get to the home, they're going to enter the home and start their assessment. So they're going to ask questions about your medication history, your medical history, what's happening right now, what led to the issue that you're experiencing. And so one of the things that is really helpful is if you have kind of an updated list. So it's hard to remember all of the medical history and all of the potential prescriptions that you might have while you're going through your emergency. So it's important to maybe have that all typed up ahead of time, maybe on a piece of paper that can be given to the paramedics when they arrive, because that's just a lot of information they can get very quickly. So within that, they're assessing you. So they, depending on whether it's a trip that caused the fall or whether you experience dizziness that caused the fall, that's going to affect the treatment that they give you. So they're going to probably check vitals. So you're going to take a blood pressure, pulse, check and see if you're having any fever, anything like that, because all of those things can affect, you know, whether you're stable on your feet, basically. So they're going to be doing certain things like that, determining if you have a low blood pressure, or maybe even checking your heart by doing an electrocardiogram on your heart, checking a blood sugar. All of these things are kind of a part of that assessment and that treatment. Maybe starting some fluids if your blood pressure is low. And then from that, making a determination about what hospital it's appropriate for you to go to. Most often it's, you know, one that you're familiar with. They'll ask which one you maybe want to go to. There are certain things that do require more specialization. So some hospitals have what are called trauma centers or stroke centers, that type of thing. And so not all hospitals have those designations. So there is a possibility that, you know, your primary hospital, the hospital you really want to go to, doesn't have that specialization, and the paramedic is going to say, hey, you know, based on what we're seeing here, we think that maybe you would be better suited going to a specialty center. If that's the case, fortunately, you may not be going to the place that you feel more comfortable, but they may not have all the resources available. So just keep kind of an open mind to that. Do ask questions, because paramedics, you know, are able to answer those questions for you. So that you do know where you're going. So once it's determined where you're going, you're going to get into an ambulance. And the ambulance is going to take you to the hospital, where they're going to transition care over to the hospital and do probably a lot more tests and really determine what fully is going on and what's needed from there. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so there are some risk factors that are associated with falls that are important to know about, because a lot of them, there's something you can do about them. So lower body weakness, not having enough vitamin D in the diet, or not getting enough vitamin D, difficulty with walking and or balance, so any balance issues that you might have. Medications are a huge one. So really, again, having those conversations with your physician, if you are experiencing some of those side effects, it does put you at much greater risk for falls. Foot pain or poor footwear, and then some environmental things like home hazards, any uneven steps, throw rugs, clutter, that sort of a thing. But the good news is that, as we talked about, falls are preventable. And so knowing the risk factors, having those conversations, those are all really key. So next slide, please. So the things that we can do, again, I can't stress enough, talk to your doctor, have those conversations. Remove those throw rugs. That's really a huge tripping hazard. So having even surfaces to walk on. Consider some home modifications. If you installing grab bars in the bathrooms, utilizing railings, turning on lights when you enter a room. Especially at night, if you end up getting up to go to the restroom, it's a good idea to turn lights on, because then you can see better what's in the area so that you don't accidentally trip over something. And then getting your eyes and ears checked regularly. So you should be getting that done at least once a year. And then updating, you know, if your glasses need updated, or if you need a hearing aid or that sort of a thing. And then again, managing those medications. So if you're taking anything that can lower your blood pressure, lower your blood sugar, any antidepressants, there's a ton of different medications with a lot of different side effects, and a lot of times they can interact with each other. So again, talking with your doctor about those things that you're experiencing, you may need to have a little bit of a change in those medications, or just being aware of those things is really important. And then watching out for things underfoot, right? We talked about moving the rugs, but things that move, like small pets and children, just be aware of those as well, because you can trip over pets and children as well. And then the last thing would be exercise. Exercise is really important, no matter what age that you're in, but exercise is really important. Try to get at least 30 minutes 3 times a week. There's a lot of different opportunities for exercise. I know with the pandemic and everything, that in-person classes aren't really capable of doing that, but the Zoom classes, like the Matter of Balance and other things that are available online, are really important. So just keep that in mind, that's a big factor that you can affect your risk factors by making sure that you're staying active. All right. Does anyone have any questions?
Encourage everybody to use the question and answer button in Zoom, or go ahead and use the chat function. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll read those questions to Jennifer, and she'll be able to address them. So opening it up for questions. I actually have a question, Jennifer. So what happens if somebody calls 911 because they fell, but it might not be as serious as needing, transport to the hospital? What happens then?
Well, if you need, so you're talking like if you fall and you need some assistance getting back up into bed. So that's definitely something that we receive calls for, and we call those service calls. So we're able to come back out. And even within that, we will say, hey, we're here. Why don't we at least check your vitals and, all that kind of stuff. But we do want to make sure that, the fall was more related to a trip rather than any kind of dizziness or weakness, that kind of a thing, because there are, like I said, a lot of factors that can cause you to be more susceptible to falls. So when you're sick, right? So if you're feverish, if you're weak from a ton of different things. So there are factors we want to make sure that, none of those things cause the fall, and that, obviously that you're not injured. But we can't ever make anyone go to the hospital, right? So if you are feeling well and, you just want help back into bed, we're definitely here to assist with that as well. We do definitely kind of encourage at that point in time, hey, we'll help you back into bed, or help you get to the restroom and back, or, back onto your sofa or wherever. But maybe starting that conversation and saying, hey, are you having anyone coming in to help you during the day? Let's make sure you have the conversation with your primary provider to say, hey, I did have a fall. It was just a trip. Well, maybe that means that we need to talk about moving some furniture in a better location so that doesn't happen again. Removing some rugs, that sort of a thing, so that we can prevent a more serious fall for the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I have a thank you from one of our attendees who said, thank you so much for all that you do, and everybody in EMS and in fire.
No problem. I think there's one more question that just popped up too.
There's a question here that says, I thought you were taken to the nearest hospital, not the hospital of your doctor, right?
So it kind of depends. There's a couple things that come into play with where a patient is transported. We like to take you to wherever you would like to be. That would be the ultimate goal, is that, if somebody was requesting to go to a hospital that they are regularly seen at, or their physician is at, we will do what we can to try to take you to that designated hospital. However, there are a couple other factors that come into play. If you maybe aren't at home, maybe you're at a friend's home and that hospital is significantly further away, and we're bypassing a lot of hospitals in between, depending on, how significant your injury is, we may say, hey, that's not something that we can do because it takes us out of our service providing area. So that's one factor. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, there are different hospitals with different specialties as well. So there are specific hospitals for trauma, there are specific hospitals for stroke, there's also specific hospitals for, it's called a STEMI center, it's for specific types of heart attacks. So if any of those things are happening, it is really important that you go to a facility that's designated for that. Not that you can't be cared for at another facility as well, but those that have that designation are waiting and ready for you. They don't have to prep anything. They have all of the specialty equipment that they might need already there. So we do very much encourage that you're going to the correct place for whatever we think might be going on. So there are it's kind of a multifaceted question there. But yes, we do like to take you to where you want to go. So in the city that I work in, we have multiple hospitals really close by. So we are able to accommodate, oh, hey, we may be 2 minutes closer to this hospital, but oh, this is where I'm normally seen. We'll go to where you are normally seen if it's within the designated, based on what's happening, right? You have a stroke center, you go to a stroke center, that kind of a thing. But if it's just a preference type thing and it doesn't take us far out of our service area, then we like to get you to where you want to be, where you're comfortable, and where they have your information.
And I think that also answers a question that we might have gotten simultaneously, which says, do patients have the option to say where they want to receive ER services?
Yeah, I think that covers that.
All right. I have another one here. How much time should I spend in the sun to get the vitamin D that I need on a daily basis?
If you can get out and about for 30 minutes a day, just going for a nice walk, obviously wearing a little bit of sunscreen, but going for a nice walk if you're able, or just going and having kind of your morning coffee, that sort of a thing, out on a porch or a balcony, all of that's good.
One more question here. How does hearing affect falling?
Hearing can affect falling if, let's say you have a small pet, or like we said, small children, you have maybe grandchildren that are there, or maybe you live with your family that has children as well in the same household. So knowing where things are, so if you're unable to hear that the dog has maybe just come across and you haven't seen it, making sure that your hearing is checked regularly, that's important. If you're out, if somebody says, oh, there's a car coming, right? You need to be able to hear that, or out in a grocery store, although right now, hopefully you're able to get things delivered and whatnot. But, just being able to hear those things around you gives you a better awareness of your environment.
Thank you. Other questions for Jennifer? Someone said, what's your major?
My major, well, my first degree was in chemistry, and then I taught for a little bit, and then I went back to school, and so my second major, I guess, the second time around was nursing.
All right, any other questions here for Jennifer? If someone has a life alert, does the fire department respond?
Yes. Yeah, so when I talked about the dispatch center, and I mentioned that, the dispatchers are taking calls from either a caregiver, family member, whoever's calling, the life alert, that service, they detect that the life alert button has been depressed, and they would then make that phone call. So it's an automatic call to the dispatch center to get your address. They're going to have less information because it's not a direct call with somebody that's in the home, but that's fine. That's better than nothing. If you're alone, you need to be able to get that information. So just having The address allows us to get rolling, and then they'll get the information that they need to once they get there.
Great. If a caller is unable to open the door, what do you do?
So we will get in. It kind of depends. If you're in a building where somebody has an extra key, that's great, because then there's no kind of destruction that could potentially occur. You know, they're going to try to yell out, say, hey, is there like a hide a key somewhere that we can, you know, try? So they'll try to make communication to whoever's in or behind the door. But if they're not getting any information, let's say you're far back, you're not able to provide that information, nobody else has a key, they will get in through the door. We have tools that unfortunately will end up breaking the door, but getting the care that you need in a timely manner is most important. So they're going to exhaust those efforts first to try to get in without any issue there, and they won't leave it all completely open when they leave too. They do want to protect your property as well. So
thank you. Any last questions? Do you allow ride-alongs?
Yes and no. With COVID right now, there's no ride-alongs. We do some ride-alongs through our own department, but they tend to be specifically for maybe nurses that are trying to become MICNs, so getting kind of experience that way. Those that are interested in entering the fire service. So there are ride-alongs that do exist. There's just kind of varying amounts of that. And as of right now, a lot of that, I don't know of any other department that's currently doing ride-alongs right now with the pandemic. Even within our stations, we've had drastic changes to the living quarters to make sure that we're keeping our personnel safe as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the mobile response unit?
The mobile response unit?
Yeah, isn't there a separate unit that's stationed in different fire departments?
So there are differing, I think what you may be referring to, so different departments or different areas have started moving into the direction of having other types of responding units. So specifically within our city, and not solely to our city, we do house the mobile stroke unit for weekends. Yeah. Within our area, the mobile stroke unit actually is located in 3 different areas and kind of rotates around. So we have them specifically for us on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so that is a unit that is specific to strokes. So they will respond on anything that, if they're within a certain area and close enough so that their response is quick, they will respond to anything that sounds like it may be a stroke. So it doesn't necessarily mean somebody calling and saying, hey, I think I'm having a stroke. It could also mean that, hey, you know, somebody just had a seizure for the very first time. I mean, that having a first-time seizure is not that common. And so, you know, usually you have a history of seizures, but if you have a first-time seizure and you've never had one before, that's concerning. There's a lot of workup that needs to be associated with that. Any signs of weakness on one side, that sort of thing. So if they get any of that information and they're within a responding radius, they will respond to that call and do an assessment. And so within that unit, right now there's a paramedic, there's a nurse, there's a CT technician, because it's actually a mobile CT. So they're able to scan the head and take a look at the brain and see if there's any signs of bleeding within the brain or any areas that look concerning. So that is a unit specific to stroke. I really truly feel that as we move forward, that more and more of these types of resources are going to be available. Other areas have implemented what they call advanced practitioner units. So they may have a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant that's maybe able to come out, do some small, you know, if it's a small laceration and then somebody needs stitches, it avoids having to fully go to an emergency department, that sort of a thing. So there's a lot of things going on right now. There's actually a lot of stuff within the legislation that's looking to be passed to make some of these a little bit more easy to tap into, because as of right now, a lot of them have to go in as a pilot program and find funding for them and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a lot of exciting stuff coming on that front, and a lot of things that are really geared towards, you know, getting the right care for the right patient, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Got a question here that says, if you fall in a public place, will your purse be safely guarded?
Well, your purse should go with you. So if you are really anywhere that you're calling 911 and being taken to a hospital, removed from that location, you should be bringing, if you have a cell phone, bring your cell phone with you, have your purse with you, all that kind of stuff. So if it's close by, even if you're not able to tell somebody to remind them to take it, the firefighters and paramedics, they're gonna take it with you and keep it with you so that it's not just staying there. But yeah, I would be concerned if I just left my purse in a park, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions here. The last call for questions. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us. This has been really informative. I'm sure that you have addressed a lot of things that people are so curious about and don't always have the opportunity to ask about in real time. Someone says they'd love to do a ride along in the future. What's your territory?
I work for the city of Torrance, for the Torrance Fire Department. So that's my territory, so to speak.
So for
reach out to all of you know, whatever your local fire department is, and talk with them and see what things they have available as well.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things to look forward to once kind of, you know, the impact of the pandemic passes, and we're able to do some of the things that we'd really enjoy doing. So for more information about fall prevention or to enroll in a program, you can visit our Partners in Care website. You have it here at www.picf.org/online-wellness-programs. Or if you've got questions, want to find a class nearby, I understand that some of you may be viewing or joining us from outside of Los Angeles. You can contact us here at ebprograms@picf.org, and we would be able to route your question or your comment as best as possible. So Wellness Wednesday happens every other week. So our next one is going to be October 7th, right here, same channel on Zoom at 10:30 a.m. And the topic is going to be dignity at home. So finding resources for home modifications, and that's going to be presented by Brian Carter from the California Department of Aging. So do not miss it. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you, Jennifer, for joining us and for sharing with the group here. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will look forward to seeing you on October 7th. Thank you.